On this episode of the Talking Bear Football Podcast, recorded September 21st, 2020, Jason, Steven, and Matt discuss the Bears' Week 4 win over Wilton, check in on the rest of District 5, and speculate as to who the Bears will play this week. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Talking Bear Football Podcast.
Right here on westbranchfootball.com.
And by saying welcome back to, Stephen Grace, Matt Shenander, Jason Miller, I'm also saying welcome back to the win column. West Branch Football is back after 2 weeks of not being in the debit column, so to speak, guys. They got a win, and they got a decisive win. Very decisive road district win at Wilton, 43-8, the Bears over the Beavers. Stephen Grace, I give it to you first. That was kind of old school formula, so to speak. When West Branch is at its best, this is what they do. They play great defense, and the offense is ticking.
Yeah, that was definitely a fun game to watch and be able to broadcast. And I think, the three of us have talked the last couple of weeks. Okay, yeah, it stunk because we lost those two games. We lost at West Liberty, and then we lost to Cascade. But it felt like this team was starting to show some glimpses. They had showed some flashes in that Tipton game, and it's like if we could just figure out how to get it all put together, and it feels like that finally all started falling into place. Now, not to say that we were perfect, just still, 10 penalties, and, there was still some things that need cleaned up, but, that's one of the things as a coaching staff, they're always saying, we're still looking to get better. But it was great to see the defense come out. I don't even have my sheet in front of me right now, but I think 5 or 6 3-and-outs in that first half for Wilton. A quarterback that was averaging almost 100 yards rushing per game, held the negative yards, and then just moving the ball up and down the field, both on the ground and through the air. It felt good to have that, and now hopefully we can see how they respond after the positive to not rest on those laurels, but keep doing what they did to get even better.
And before Matt, I'll throw it over to you now to sort of fill in Steven's gap that he had of 5 or 6 3-and-outs. It was 4 3-and-outs and 3 turnovers that were formed by the West Branch defense. Pretty good first half, pretty good second half, Matt.
Yeah, you just mentioned the defense. I'll start with that, but just really at all levels, they played fantastic. They've played extremely well the first 3 weeks of the season, but Friday night in Wilton, that just seemed like a different level. What I really liked was the front 7, I guess. So your defensive line and your linebackers, I'm calling the front 7, really created a lot of pressure and did really well at stuffing run holes and actually, making a tackle on first contact. So they prevented a lot of plays from getting to that second level. Cornerbacks played really good, tight coverage and preventing, really any throwing opportunities for Saville. And there's, one play that really stood out to me, and I included it in the highlight package too on westbranchfootball.com, is, there was a long pass, down the West Branch sideline, and Peyton Miller was just locked in step for step with the receiver and just jumped up and batted it away. It was the perfect defense you could have. Well thrown ball, but perfect defense from Peyton Miller too. So just a lot of that going on the defensive side of the ball, but then offensively, and just for the whole team, this was, they played all around great football. And as I said in the recap that I wrote for westbranchfootball.com, this was the first time this season that they put all 3 phases together for all 4 quarters. And specifically, like I said, for the defense, it seemed like on offense, all of the individual position groups played extremely well too. So offensive line held blocks really well for Gavin, allowed him time to throw or even scramble, even enough time to, go through his reads progressions, but then, improvise at that point, whether to run or he had receivers running back to the ball or just trying to get open at some of some kind. Andy Henson, giving him time to find holes, creating holes for him to get to that second level. That was the best we've seen Andy run all season too. Really everybody just had their best game Friday, and there was a continuation of that fourth quarter, against Cascade from Solon a couple weeks ago too. As we talked about, just that momentum. The team carried that momentum from the end of that game into Friday night at Wilton. And it was just a really, really great game. And yeah, back to classic West Branch football. As Steven said at the end of the first half on the Bearcast, the Bears are playing classic West Branch football.
10 total tackles for loss on the defensive side of the football. 473 yards of total offense. You put those two things together, it's a recipe for success. And not only that, on the special team side of things, welcome back, Cale Federlin. 3 field goal attempts, 3 field goals successful. That puts him up to 4 on the season, 11, for his career, which is tied for the most field goals in the history of West Branch football in a career with none other than the kicker that he replaced, Bo Cornwell.
Yeah, and Cale's at 13 attempts for his career, and that's 3 off tying the career record for number of attempts. So, knock on wood, but with the average that Cale is at, per game, looks like he'll have both of those records.
Yeah. We'll dive deeper into some statistics here, but before we do that, turn it back over to Matt. He can give us a breakdown of the quarter by quarter scoring.
Buckle in here. Let me take a drink first.
Easy for you to say.
All right. Scoring, there's a lot of it, and that's a good thing. Quarter one, Cale Federlin put the Bears in front 3-0, first with a 28-yard field goal. Also in quarter one, Gavin Hirschman finds Carver Belk wide open for a 59-yard touchdown. Carver caught it at the 23 and probably was wide open starting at the 40 or something like that. And just kind of a little seam route from his slot position right down the field in the end zone. So that put the Bears up 10-0. I will come back to that play here when I am done. Second quarter, Cale Federlin, 22-yard field goal, so the second of the 3 makes of his night. So that put the Bears up 13-0 at that point. Also in quarter two, we have a busy second quarter. Andy Henson, an 87-yard touchdown run, going untouched. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was untouched. Looking at the video, it looked untouched. There was maybe, once he got to the second level, maybe one person that laid a fingertip on him. But we're just going to say untouched. Gavin Hirschman's 2-point conversion was good. So 21-0 West Branch. Then, also in the second quarter still, Gavin Hirschman this time finds Carver Belk again, 32-yard touchdown. Beautiful throw, beautiful catch. I mean, Gavin put it only where Carver could catch it, just kind of in his outstretched arms, right on the fingertips. So great throw by Gavin, great catch by Carver. 27-0 West Branch. Last score of the second quarter before halftime, Gavin Hirschman finds Simon Palmer, just a beautiful little fade route to the back corner of the end zone. Again, only where Simon could catch it. That's a pretty big radius to throw to, so that helps Gavin. But yeah, great throw by Gavin. Good catch by Simon, so 5-yard touchdown there. 33-0 West Branch at the half. Third quarter, Bears, in deep in Wilton territory, but backed up to 4th and 14. Gavin Hirschman finds Simon Palmer again. Again, just a nice little fade route, seam route right down the middle of the field. Simon was, from his tight end position, he is kind of a slot receiver for this play. 33-yard touchdown, 40-0 West Branch. Quarter three, still in the third quarter, Wilton gets on the board with a Soffel to Soffel connection, brothers connection. 42-yard touchdown pass and catch. The 2-point conversion was good. 40-8 West Branch at that point. Final score of the evening, the third attempt and third make for Cale Federlin. 29-yard field goal, so 43-8 West Branch. And that is how we ended up. And I do want to go, as I mentioned, I do want to go back to that second score of the night from the Gavin Hirschman to Carver Belk pass for 59 yards. That is up for KWQC out of the, I think it's Channel 6 out of the Quad Cities. It is up for their play of the week. So voting is open on Twitter just through this evening as we record this, so Monday evening. Go to our Twitter account at WB Bears Football and just find the tweet that we have retweeted from KWQC Highlight Zone, and be sure to vote for the Gavin Hirschman touchdown pass to Carver Belk.
I would really love that to win, but honestly, I think their second connection was a lot better than that one.
Thank
but,
you.
I agree.
KWQC must have left early because
Yeah.
that second play, I mean, it's when you watch it when I was watching it back on the sideline, on Huddle sideline, just it's a perfect ball.
Yeah.
It was
Again,
a great route. It was a great throw. It was a great catch. It
high
was
pointed.
great pass protection. I mean, it was just
everything.
Yeah.
That was the play of the game. Well, Steven, how about you and I talk for about a minute and give Matt a little time maybe to get a drink, catch his breath after all that work he just did there. As every week I like to do, I'll throw a couple numbers out for you. See if you can come up with the distinction here. 38 and 43.
Ooh, wow. 38 and 43.
I have an idea.
I bet Matt does. He's back.
Yep.
I got nothing on this one.
Go ahead, Matt.
40 and 43 being the number of points West Branch scored Friday, 38 being the number of points they scored in the first 3 games of the season.
That's a winner.
There you go.
That's my numbers of the week.
Let me throw something at you, Jason.
Go for it.
64, 58, 57, 220.
3 linemen that you played with and their average weight.
Rushing yards for the Bears in each of the first 4 games.
Well,
Amazing. A little different.
Yeah.
A little bit of a different. Speaking of numbers and rushing yards and other statistics, Matt, you know, are you okay?
yeah, I'm
Are you
good.
back? You're of good spirit, good voice? Okay.
I mean, we're
Got
only
his
at
energy
9.
back.
We're only at 9:15 a.m. So
Yeah, this is great. Before we put this game out to pasture, let's talk about a little bit more about some stats here.
Yeah.
Looking at West Branch's 473 offensive yards. You want to talk about that? It's not exactly balanced, but when a team is at its best, specifically a West Branch football team through the last 10, 15 years, balanced offense is what you talk about. And of 200, you're looking at West Branch's breakdown, 473. You got 254 passing, 219 rushing. Pretty even, Matt.
yeah, that's pretty good. One thing before I get into the stats, I was talking with Coach Hirschman a little bit Saturday morning, and one thing, it was just, it's something simple, but it really kind of speaks to where this team is at. I told, Coach Hirschman, I said, really great game last night. And he said, quote, "That was fun. We're trending the right direction, which is all we can ask of a young team. The sophomores stepped up Friday night." So pretty succinct and, simple from Coach Hirschman, but I think it has a lot of good meaning and good stuff behind it. So yeah, stats. So yeah, as Jason mentioned, 473 total yards from the offense, 43 points, 19 first downs, and very importantly, 0 turnovers. Gavin Hirschman was 16 of 22 passing for 254 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and he had 3 rushing attempts for 31 yards. Andy Henson, 17 rushing attempts for 166 yards, 1 touchdown. Carver Belk, 3 receptions for 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, as we have talked about. Simon Palmer, 3 receptions, 2 of those being touchdowns, and for 52 yards. Caleb Sexton, monster night, both on offense and defense. On offense, he had 4 receptions for 47 yards. And on defense, he had 7 tackles, 2.5 sacks, half a tackle for loss, and 1 interception. Andy Henson, 5 tackles, a half a tackle for loss, and 1 interception. Brady Hunker, 6 tackles. Cale Federland, 5 tackles, which is a little low for Cale, but that's all right. He had to let some other people.
Well, yeah,
get
3
tackles
field
too.
goals, so we'll call it even.
Exactly. But Cale did have 1 sack. and 2 tackles for loss. And as we mentioned, Kale Federline, 3 for 3 on his field goals.
And you put a name out there that there are two things that takeaways from this game, extra takeaways that may not get looked at as much because we're looking at the scoring, we're looking at the win, we're looking at the stats that Matt just read off. But you picked one name out for sure that I wanted to talk about was Brady Hunger.
Mm-hmm.
This week, last week, there was one play where he was almost in position, but it didn't work out. This week, he came up and laid the wood on a couple of plays. Runs got the outside. If they got to his side, they didn't get much further. And secondly, I'm going to pass this one over to Steve and Matt because this is his territory. The skill position players, this was their coming out party. I don't care if it was in week 1 or week 4. Going forward, the confidence that those 5 men can take from this game, that they built from this game, Stephen, hopefully can carry them on.
Yeah, and I mean, Coach Hirschman talked about it at halftime a little bit when he was talking with Jerry Flegel. I mean, he said the line reacted well. Wilton threw a couple of different fronts at him, one that we'd never seen before, and they were able to respond to it, and that was actually the touchdown that Andy had from 87 yards out. And so, just, again, some of it comes down to physicality, some of it comes down to just kind of relaxing and maybe not overthinking and just going out there and kind of reacting to what you're seeing on the field. And I think that group really started to put that together and did some really good things. The one other area that I wanted to mention, and I was busy this weekend, but I had a chance to watch just a little bit of film, and I noticed it when the game was going on. Wilton had really good return game, and our kickoff team especially. I mean, a couple of times you see the shot from the end zone camera. They are in their lanes. You've got the guys that are on contain on either side that are patiently waiting and just closing down that gap. There was not room for them to run. There was not room for them to cut back. We were down there. We were making the tackles. I mean, again, all phases of the game, and I think that's one that gets overlooked sometimes. But that kick coverage team on the kickoffs were just phenomenal all night long as well.
Tip of the cap to Coach Kevin Braddock on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kevin Braddock has done a great job with that team that phase of the game all season. I know Coach Peterson's mentioned it several times to me, just how well that those special teams units have done. And, sitting through 3 or 4 games last year, at this point of the season last year, we were making massive changes on the special teams area just because of, the kids weren't doing, what you just talked about, Steven, staying in their lanes, making tackles, and just a completely different this season. And it's paid dividends, and we saw that Friday night.
We've talked a lot about the offense, and I'm glad we brought up the special teams, but to close it out with the defense here, guys, before we move into the next phase of our podcast, let's really close in on that, is this. West Branch, obviously in the first game, you can't hold a team to their average because in the first game, it is their average. But in weeks 2, 3, and 4, guys, this defense has held each of its opponents below their statistical yardage average of what they've done from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4. This defense keeps getting a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think, going in, we were concerned because Wilton had such a big offensive line, but I think we showed some of our quickness and, our ability. I mean, Coach Bailey's defense is predicated on doing your assignment, and a lot of times it's, there's a lot of one-on-one stuff. And, Matt, you mentioned Peyton Miller making that nice play where it looked like the receiver was behind him. He recovered, got there. Even on the touchdown, I mean, we had good pressure coming, forced the quarterback out, and Peyton was in good position. It's just the receiver came back and made a play on the ball. You tip your cap to a senior that is a pretty darn good receiver. But, yeah, that front seven, I mean, we were bringing pressure all over the place. I said Sauvel coming in averaged almost 100 yards per game. He had negative 25 or something like that because we just kept sacking him all night long. And it came from all over the place. It wasn't just, hey, where's Jeff Bowie at? Or, it was Bowie, it was Barry, it was Buell, it was the linebackers, it was everybody. So, yeah, again, that team defense, everybody doing their job, taking care of their assignment, and that makes it that much harder on the offense because, oh, hey, we don't have to worry about putting 2 coverage guys over to cover that receiver. we can have that other safety there to help clear up some noise in the middle and lead to some turnovers that we were able to force too.
Wilton 0 for 9 on the game. 0 for 9 attempts on third down conversions. I about said reservations because we don't want you don't want to have a reservation for a third down because probably it's gonna be a good thing. But yeah, that Bear defense is clicking. Well, moving forward now to a District 5 check-in. Matt, catch us up on what happened last week with the other teams around the district.
Only one other score to report here in District 5, and that's Beckman defeating Cascade 28-19. And I say only one other because Durant and Northeast Goose Lake was canceled, I believe would be the correct terminology. Northeast, as we'll get into here soon, has shut down their season, at least for now, due to COVID concerns. Just the 2 games in District 5 Friday night. So after that, it kind of puts the standings in a bit of a jumble, but Beckman is leading the district now at 2-0. Durant's still there at 1-0 as they did not play this week. Cascade's at 1-1. West Branch is 1-1. Northeast 0-1, and Wilton at 0-2 with 3 weeks left in the season and district play.
I call this the revolving door district.
Yes.
Because Cascade beats West Branch in week 3. Beckman beats Cascade. Guess who plays, and Durant is undefeated. Guess who plays next week in District 5?
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Beckman and Durant?
But Beckman and Durant play next week. Cascade and Wilton next week. And that could be a good game. It really could.
Mm-hmm.
West Branch, let's get into that. Before we do that, how about a word from our sponsor, Corridor Drywall.
If you need to spruce up your home, or if you are building something new, turn to Corridor Drywall to make the project look great. Locally owned and operated by Dan Buell, Corridor Drywall offers quality work at an affordable price. Call them for advice on your next drywall project at 319-354-9255. Corridor Drywall, proud supporters of the West Branch Bears.
Well, moving on to week 5. As Matt has already alluded to, the Bears are, as of right now, they're idle. That is not a good thing. That's a bad feeling to be in the middle of a season and be idle, but it's 2020. So what the heck else do you expect but a possibility of a hurricane in eastern Iowa or other things that have been going on? But at par for the course, unfortunately, Northeast Goose Lake, West Branch's opponent, week 5, has some football players that have contracted the coronavirus, and so they have to shut things down for a couple weeks. The second week being week 5, which is at West Branch. So the Bears are going to be scrambling to find an opponent for this week. Stephen and Matt, why don't you guys go ahead and talk about some of the things we're hearing behind the scenes, the possibilities of who could West Branch play, and will West Branch ever see the Little Rose Bowl again on a Friday night in the fall of 2020?
Well, all I know for certain is that Jake Stenberg has been working his hind end off, not just in the last week or so, but all season long. That goes all the way back.
Use the correct euphemism. His fanny.
His fanny, sorry.
That's what Coach Peterson would say.
Working his fanny off.
Or just use the real word.
His arse.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you go all the way back to baseball season and, things got thrown into a wrench there, worked diligently to get things there. Then we figure out what the football season's going to be, and he's getting everything lined up and figured out. I think he's one of those guys that gets mentioned, but I don't think gets mentioned enough, because as soon as he found out that Northeast was off for 2 weeks, he's been on the phone making calls, trying to find anybody, trying to work it out, because in addition to needing to find a game, we would really love to have a home game so that we could have senior night, so that we can have homecoming, have some of those fun things that these kids deserve. And that's one of the challenges, is because a lot of the other teams that are available also want to have home games for the similar reasons. And so Jake's doing whatever he can to try to find it up. There's, I think, 3 or 4 teams that are possibilities out there. And he was hoping to know by sometime, like you said, Matt, we're recording this Monday morning. We're hoping to know sometime during the day today so that we can actually plan on who we're going to be playing against.
Highland has been thrown up as a possible team. Highland so far is 0-3. They've had 1 week off. Second week of the season, they did not have a game. They're 0-3. They've had 3 games. Guess how many of those were at home so far?
2.
I think there's going to be a little bit of a trend developing here. Maquoketa Valley, another possible opponent for the Bears that we're looking into. The Bears in Maquoketa Valley have played many a game through the years. It's been a few years since we played. Coach Chris Evers was still on the sidelines then. And I'm really stalling right now because I can't remember which class Maquoketa Valley is in. I'm wanting to say 1A.
A.
I was
Okay.
thinking, yeah, they're A.
Class A.
They're in Bellevue's
Yes,
district.
they are Class A.
I hear Iowa Falls is available as well for, the Bears aren't adverse to 3.5-hour drives, specifically in playoff games.
Yeah, who the heck is it? Yeah, where are they?
North Central Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa Falls Alden, I
I
believe
see. Okay.
is the correct name. Iowa Falls, can anybody tell me a famous alumni?
Drew Barrymore.
That's correct. If she were named Nick Collison,
Oh,
professional
how could I
Former-
mix those up?
NBA basketball player, played at Kansas, is from Iowa Falls. I think he's perhaps their most famous alumni of recent years.
Other than Drew Barrymore.
Other than Drew Barrymore. Yeah, boy, this is really off the rails, but it kind of goes with the flow of the week. Best branches. We're just hoping to
We're
get
just
a bite
flying by
here.
the seat of our pants, boys.
Yeah, hoping that we find an opponent. Because when you're coming off a performance a week like West Branch did, building confidence, the last thing you want to do is wait 2 weeks to play another game.
Right.
And if you have to play on the road, I guess you have to play on the road. But the reason why we want a home game is what? Not just to have a home game, but, Matt,
To honor our
To-
seniors
to honor the seniors
and homecoming.
and to have a homecoming game.
Yep.
If that doesn't happen this week, that is not going to happen this season as far as on a Friday to go along with a Friday night, because in week 6, and 7, the Bears are on the road. Schedule makers, that's the way it worked out.
And in the event that we have a playoff game at home, we cannot have those
You
types
cannot
of
do that.
activities. Though,
But you never know, 2020.
you'd
they
think
may
the
make
state could make an exception, but
Yeah. So hopefully Jake Stenberg, by the time perhaps when Steven and I talk on the Cornerstone Real Estate Consultants pregame game preview, we should know who the Bears are going to play. And we'll talk about it then.
I know, but chances are is 10 minutes after I get this episode out, it'll be announced.
Yeah.
I would
That's the
check
way it
Twitter,
is.
but I know that Matt's not going to update anything while we're talking. So
Yeah, why would he do such a thing? So, since we're off the rails, let's get back a little bit onto it and talk about our Picks to Click segment. I'm just going to let Matt take over on this one. But before we do that, let's throw it over to Steven to introduce our next sponsor.
Main Street Sweets is your hometown sandwich and ice cream shop. Located in the heart of downtown West Branch between Reed's Beans and Touched by Power, Main Street Sweets offers great burgers, tenderloins, cheese balls, and more. And don't forget the ice cream. Main Street Sweets, locally owned and operated by my wife Jessica and me, where we're always proud to support our hometown. Find us on the web at mainstreetsweetswb.com.
Oh, that was humble. There was a lot of humility in that introduction and in that advertisement. So now we'll move on to the Picks to Click. Matt, why don't you just take over on this one?
Be happy to.
I would too.
And Stephen would as well.
Yeah.
I think, Jason,
The Bears-
as you always say, the Bears won, so we won. But,
That's right.
looking at our Picks to Click from last week, just a quick review. I had Cale Federland, Stephen had Gavin Hirschman, Jason, you had Carver Belk. And yeah, despite the team success, I would say we also all won our picks to click.
I think all
It's hard
three
to-
of those gentlemen had phenomenal games.
Yeah, hard
So-
to argue with. I mean, we could have
Yeah,
picked pretty much anybody,
Yeah.
even
You look at.
even Bulldog.
Go ahead. The Bulldog.
Yeah,
Bulldog, you were off by a week, Jay
you're a
Bird.
week too
I was
early.
off by a week because if you watch the film, when Bulldog got in there, not only were his teammates cheering him on the sidelines and
Mhm.
barking like dogs. I don't know if you could hear that
Oh yeah,
from up in the booth, Stephen. But Wilton ran away from him. They did not run at him. Not one play he was on the field did it come toward him. The Bulldog, they watch the scouting report. He works hard. He's a good young man. And the Bears win, so he won. His pick to click would win as well. But Matt, we'll look at it. Let's break them down. The three guys. Cale Federline, 3 for 3 on his field goal attempts after going 0 for 2 the week before. Little bounce back there. Also, we already chronicled it. That ties the school record, gives him 11 career field goals. Stevens guy, Gavin Hirschman. All he did was have 4 touchdown passes. That's not a bad week. Not a bad week at all. And guided his team on offense to 43 points. Jason, that's me. Carver Belk has 2 touchdown receptions. One of which, by the way, is up for a play of the game. If Matt has already talked about that, go vote westbranchfootball.com. Go to the West Branch Twitter page if you have it, and click on the Matt has linked the KWQC tweet to vote for one of 3 plays, and Carver's is in there. As of the last I checked, it was
winning.
leading.
It is still winning. Yes.
But don't rest on your laurels.
Yeah,
keep
keep
voting
voting.
or vote. If you haven't voted, vote again. Go vote. If you have voted, find a way to vote again.
It's the
Yeah.
American way.
Yeah.
Vote early, vote often.
So I'm going to go ahead and pick this week first, if that's okay with you guys.
You are not first to pick this week.
Dang it, because
Steven
I've got a
first.
lock on this one.
Well, we'll see if Steven steals it.
Go ahead, Steven.
I mean,
Your pick to
a
click.
lot of it depends on who we're going to play, so that always throws a wrench
Yeah.
into things for me. But I'm going to go a little different guy that I was impressed with. Maybe didn't show up in the stat column, but defensively, Drake Berry. I think that young man has put in some work and he's improving. And I think no matter who or where we're playing, he's going to come through with a big night.
Steven, you had a chance there, I think, to really steal my thunder and make a statement. Because I really think the pick to click, as we're speaking right now, my pick to click is activities director Jake Stenberg. Because if he continues to work hard like he has, and it's not Steak Stenberg,
I
it's
know.
Jake Stenberg, the Bears are going to have a game on Friday, and to be quite honest, he's done a lot of great things behind the scenes. I mean, a week ago, he got things done to get a game that was going to play in a monsoon and a mud bog down on the Little Rose Bowl, and got it moved to Solon. So I wanted to give him a little shout out on that. But I guess if we're going to get a player, a pick to click, for me this week, I'm going to go with Andy Henson, a one-timer. I think he gets it done. Continued to follow his favorite skill positions up front. I guess that leaves Matt, huh, Steven?
It does.
Yeah.
Man.
Sometimes going last is awesome. Other times it just, I don't know.
But you've got, I mean, just like Justin Bieber says, it's one time, man. You've got those picks, man. I know you've chosen one of them.
I picked 2 of them. I've done
Oh, well, then
Andy
who-
and Cale back to back.
Well, you've got 2 left if you wanted
I
them.
know.
Make it a trifecta. Throw Gavin in there.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
So, Jason, this would pertain to you as well, but any one-timers this week picked, and if for whatever reason we don't have a game,
Yes, we get them back.
okay,
That's what you're saying. Yes.
yeah, that's what I was
Man,
asking.
he doesn't have faith in your first pick to click, Jason, that Jake's going to find something for us to play.
Yeah, that's that. Come on.
No, I'm just in the event
Yeah.
we need to have this in the Constitution. You know,
Yeah.
add it to the list of the West Branch Football Fantasy League Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of course, I named a player first, and
exactly.
it's got to be all about me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I know if we didn't specify, you'd be hankering for it next week to be able to get Andy back. So just figured we'd clear the air right now before it becomes an issue.
I just use the rules that are the things that are at my disposal that haven't been stated otherwise.
Well, it's not a rule because we didn't state it as a rule. So
Exactly.
now it is stated.
It's stated.
But rules aren't negative. Rules are also positive.
Do we have any lawn care companies in the area that would like to sponsor us when we get off in the weeds this far?
Oh, this is. We've been so good, and
I think I'm just stalling.
Staggering straight here. Matt, there are 25 other players to choose from.
I know. All right, Peyton Miller.
Good choice, and I like that pick because I think, you look at the statistics for West Branch. He has I wouldn't say far and away, but he's got a very large margin. By a large margin, he is the West Branch's leader in receptions. But what doesn't he have this year?
Touchdown.
A touchdown. I think this might be the week he does it. Against who? You're just going to have to stick around to westbranchfootball.com and find out. As for the Talking Bear Football podcast,
right here on westbranch.football.
Yeah, westbranch.football. We wouldn't be able to do all these things or talk about all this stuff and get off the rails like we do if we didn't have our sponsors. All those sponsors that we're thankful for, and to have the ability, for Stephen and Mike and Jerry to do Friday Night's Bearcast, to bring it out to hundreds, if not 1,000 or 2 people each week, depending on where you are. And Matt, what's our highest count so far this year? How about that? Of listeners,
that's
dedicated
confidential
listeners.
Information.
That's good. So we'll leave it at that. If you don't subscribe to this, then you won't know. But okay, we'll talk about that maybe at the end of the year to wrap up. But getting into our sponsors,
yes,
who are they? And we want to say thanks. Every week we do.
Yeah, the 2020 season for the Talking Bear Football podcast, right here on westbranchfootball.com, wouldn't be possible without Barnhart's Custom Services, Cornerstone Real Estate Consultants, Corridor Drywall, Julie and Dan Hayes at EMS Detergent Services, Fidelity Bank and Trust, the Full Wider Insurance Agency, Hodge Construction, Hoover Presidential Foundation, Liberty Communications, Main Street Suites, Marcy Willier with Urban Acres Real Estate, Touched by Power, in the West Branch Times.
Stephen, I know you've already touched upon all those wonderful things that Matt won't say on the social media. What are all those social media platforms that he will say things on as it pertains to West Branch football?
Well, you can go to Twitter and follow at WB Bears Football. You can go to Instagram and follow at WB Bears Football.
All about the gram.
Great video highlights on the Instagram feed this week. Go to Facebook, just search West Branch Football. Look for us there. We've put those videos up there as well. And then, of course, if you want to stay up to date and make sure that you don't miss an episode here, you can subscribe to this podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I'm sure there's a host of others that everybody likes, whatever it is. Just search for the Talking Bear Football podcast and look for it, like it, follow it. Matt's got show notes in there. You can hear us get off the rails and give us your insight for 30 to 45 minutes every week.
Yeah, sure. It's great. It's good stuff. And we thank you, every single one of you, all you listeners out there. You aren't on this list of our wrap-up thanks every week, but you should be. We thank you for checking in and wasting time along with us. So, guys, the key things to as we wrap this all up is, one, the Bears won last week, got their record back to 2-2, got some confidence back, and they are back directly in the midst of the District 5 hunt Class 1A for 2020. I think we can all agree that there's some confidence that has been built up.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, is who are the Bears going to play in Week 5? We don't know as of right now, as this is being recorded on Monday, September 21st at 9:47 a.m. We do not know. Perhaps by the end of this day, I would say by the end of today, we will know. And by the time you hopefully get to hear Stephen and my game preview, we'll be able to talk about a team at length, give you a little bit of background on that team and some players, some key guys to watch for. And then Stephen will talk to Coach Peterson and our senior football, our West Branch highlight, player, what do we call it?
Player profile.
Player interview. Player profile, as sponsored by Corridor Drywall. So we'll bring it all to you as we do on Thursdays and Fridays and later this week with our game capsule on westbranchfootball.com. Speaking of westbranchfootball.com, This has been the Talking Bear Football Podcast.
Right here on westbranchfootball.com.
Steven, take us out.
Take care, everyone.